onto spacement or spacing. Onto spacing. So this is called kerning. And what is kerning? Kerning is the space between the individual characters. And there's something similar called letter spacing. And letter spacing is the overall spacing between the characters in the paragraph. So if you just remember, kerning is the space between individual, and letter spacing is the overall spacing between all the characters. But if you want to be really specific, kerning is actually reducing space between two letters or characters, and letter spacing is actually adding space between all the letters. So there you go. A tip that not a lot of people know, and you're now part of an elite group that really won't do anything exciting for you. So how do you kern, and why do you kern? Well, you'll see once you start doing your typographical layouts, certain words or certain characters to each other, the spacing becomes a bit weird. So maybe the letter V next to the letter A, the space might be quite distant because of the angle of the letter. So VA or VA. You can see there's a lot of space between the characters there. But then if that was VW, it's a lot tighter there. Or if it was VP, now it's a lot tighter because it's a straight edge. So you need to adjust the spacing between certain characters to make them feel more natural. So a quick nugget for you. Get your dip out and your pen and paper. You only generally need to kern anything over 26 pixels on the web. On body text, you don't need to do, because it's a lot smaller normally, you won't be able to see the difference, or it won't make a lot of difference between it won't make a lot of difference. You won't really notice it by eye. It's only when you get to larger text and titles like 26 or more that you start to notice things. And even on the web, you might not even be able to kern stuff anyway, because it's a lot. You probably have to use JavaScript possibly. If your developers into typography, might do it for you, but a lot of the time you might not be able to do it. But it's good to know anyway. And when you're designing, to make your design look as good as possible, when you hand it off to stakeholders or your employers, you want it to look as good as possible. So I would say, if you've got time, kern your titles, make it look as good as possible, because that will sell your design. Even if in the end of the day your developer might not be able to do the kerning with code, you want your design to look as good as possible. Anyway, how do you kern? Well, I'm going to tell you. You do it by eye. There's a couple of rules, but in general, you're just going to kern by eye. You want just to look at the words and try to make the space in between them equal. Or look at the letters, sorry, not the words. And there's a really cool website that you can play with that will help you get good at doing this. And this is it. Type.method.ac. And this is a kerning game. So by playing this game, you're going to learn how to kern. You're going to pick up a good eye and start using, being able to see when the kerning is off after a while. And this is really good fun. You end up playing it way longer than you should, which I'm going to just give you a quick demonstration now. So you're just trying to get the spacing between the characters even. So starting the game. So as you can see here, W and A, like I said, and W and V. You can see the spacing here is obviously very bad. It's very tight there, very loose there, and not so bad there. So you're just going to drag the characters around and try and even out the spacing. So I think that could be good. So let's try that. 86. Not that good, nearly, but not too bad. Let's try the next one. So obviously here, very tight, too tight and too tight. So let's give everything its space. All the characters are important. You want to give them the space so they can all breathe and feel important. So that looks quite good. Nice even amount of space, I think. Let's see. Yeah, not too bad, 93. So you can see I'm trying to get the space even between all the characters. So that looks not too bad. That's it. Let's see if I move a tiny bit. Let's try that. Well, it's not bad at all. And there you go. So you're just going to spend a little while messing around with this website. It really, really is a fun website. And you're going to be a total nerd of typography by the end of it. You're just going to get good at kerning by doing this. And you're going to start to see, you're going to, in fact, this could ruin your life. It might end up that, like me, I'll walk around and I'll see a poster on a billboard or in my local Weatherspoons or something, and you see that the kerning has been forgotten about, and it just looks terrible, and it looks like 2 words instead of 1 word. So you might see a wait in the toilets on a poster or something. Not that I hang around toilets often, but on posters you might see things like that, and it'll start to annoy you. So just get used to kerning, and hopefully it won't ruin your life too much. But it'll make you a better designer if you're good at it anyway. 100%. Not bad. So I probably should quit now before I don't do as good. I'll do one more and then I'll carry on with the lecture because I'm starting to enjoy this now. I'm just trying to get the space even. Oh, that was terrible. I should have quit. Alright. Anyway. I'm going to have to do one now to bring my cred back. That'll do. 92. Alright, brought myself back a bit. Anyway, just keep playing with this, mess around with it, and you're going to get good at your kerning. And it's a really fun little game. So I'm going to close that. And then I'll just tell you the quick rules. So there's some very quick rules when you're kerning, or just little tips to remember that can help you. Like I said, you're going to do it optically by eye. But when you see certain things together, if you remember these little nuggets, it will help you when you're doing it. So get your dip out and your pen and paper and write these nuggets down. So if you have a curve against a curve, so like O and C, or if that was a P and an O, or a B and a D, I can't think of anywhere. No, I can't think of a B and a D together off the top of my head. No. Yeah. But anyway, curve against a curve. C, O, P, O, P, D. Can't think of P and D together. But anyway, curve and a curve together, you should have tighter kerning. So if I just stick that in there. You want your kerning to be tight. No, just make that. So that's nice. Tight kerning there. There you go. So tight kerning, curve and a curve, tight kerning. I should probably add a piece of text here saying that. There you go. Curve against the curve, tight kerning. A straight against a straight. The edges have got generally they've got better space together already, so you can have a looser kerning. Curve against a curve, because they're pushing away, you need tight. Stop moving. Straight against straight, you can have looser kerning there. Not going so well here. There you go. So you can have looser kerning. So the kerning there. So curve against the curve, tight kerning, straight against straight. Oh, this is not going good, I'm sorry. Straight against straight. Requires loose kerning. Or more open kerning. Okay, so straight against the curve. That requires just normal kerning. So not loose, but not tight, just normal kerning. And finally, an angle against an angle, or a diagonal against requires tight kerning, because they appear to be, no, that should be normal, there you go, should be normal, and that should be very tight, not tight, even very tight, because they appear optically further away because they're pushing each other away. So you need to make the kerning tighter. If this sketch has been fantastic today. So if that was like that, that feels too tight, too far away, sorry. So you need to make sure you've got tight kerning. You want it as tight as possible, like a badger's bum. As my gran would say, tight as a badger's bum. So if you just remember those 4 nuggets, curve against the curve should be tight, straight against the straight should be loose, and not rewires but requires. This is typography, not electrical. Straight against the curve should be normal, and diagonal against diagonal should be very tight. Remember those and you'll be alright. And a quick tip for you, one final nugget for your dip. If you're looking at your type and you feel like it doesn't look quite right, you've kerned it but it just doesn't feel quite right, what you can do, you can flip in Sketch or Photoshop, whatever you're using, flip it upside down and back to front. So, alright, that was a terrible example because it looks like an X and an M now. But you want it so it doesn't, your eyes don't recognise the word. So let's type in a word. This is really going bad. And we'll do wave. Let's do my head in now. So if we type in the word wave, I don't know why I keep using the word wave, but I am for some reason. So there's the word wave. And so I've kerned it and I feel like it still doesn't look quite right. It's like, what is going on? What you want to do, flip it upside down and back to front. So you're not looking at the word anymore. Your brain isn't recognising this as a word. Because it's trying to recognise it as a word, you're missing what it is. And then from here, you can re-kern it. For some reason in Sketch it's doing it. But if you can flip it round, you'll be able to see, okay, so it needs more, it needs to be tighter here. There's all right, but it looks a bit loose there. So then you just tighten it. There you go. That's much better. Fixed. So by making it so your brain doesn't recognise it as a word, by flipping it, then you can kern it a bit easier. And that goes with your whole design. When you've done the design and you think you've finished it and there's something just not looking right, or even if it's looking good to you, just try flipping it. It's an old trick that you used to take it to the mirror and look at it in the mirror, but you can't do that with a big Apple Mac. But now you can just select the whole thing, group it and flip it. So you're now looking at your design flipped back to front, and any problems or anything that's not quite right is going to stick out like a sore thumb, and then you can fix it. But that's a nugget for another day. Okay, so that's kerning.